We're good? Everybody good?
Yeah.
All right, it's 5:30, time to call the meeting to order. Would you please stand as we repeat the Pledge of Allegiance? Recite the Pledge of Allegiance, excuse me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Thank you for everybody that's in attendance tonight. I hope this meeting goes rather quickly, and at some point it's enjoyable. All right. Gentlemen, have you had a chance to look at the agenda? And there is one addition to this. There is item D that's been added, and that is consider authorizing the sanitation department to purchase a 2020 Ford F-550 with swamp loader S1-145 series hook lift with 14,500 pound capacity from Elliott Equipment Company for $75,873. So that's the only addition to the agenda.
Looks good.
I don't have any additions.
Okay. Then I move that we adopt the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, first item, item 2, appointments. This is the Economic Development Advisory Board, and we are appointing 4 members for terms expiring January 1st, 2022, and 3 members for terms expiring January 1st, 2021. And those that will be serving terms expiring, a 3-year term expiring January 1st of 2022 are Charles Chuck Goad, Paul Yarolowski, Wayne Stephanie, and Jim Carell. And then those that will be serving a 2-year term that expires January 1st, 2021 to the Economic Development Advisory Board will be Lori Kelly, Jason Curtis, and Tony Royce. Do I have all in favor signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye? Oh. I went jump the gun. Who wants to second it?
I'll second.
Okay, let's vote again. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Consent agenda, item number 3. Have you had a chance to look at all the items on the consent agenda? And does anyone have a particular question about any of those items?
No, I'm fine.
I'm good.
You're good. Okay. I make a motion that we move to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. Moving to item 4, items for commission action. Item A, consider an ordinance adding an ex officio member to the Economic Development Advisory Board.
Mayor, we've had a request from Main Street to add an ex officio member, their executive director, and this will be consistent with what we're doing also with the chamber and the MCAC.
Okay.
When this board was originally put together, Main Street wasn't as involved in economic development as they are now. And so I think that's why originally it wasn't included, but now they're very much involved in economic development type things, and staff thinks that would be an appropriate thing to do. And
Okay.
an ex officio is a non-voting member, so.
Okay. They're basically coming on board with MAC and the chamber.
Yeah, they'd be just like, Lisa and Tricia.
And just there for input or giving
Right.
information, sharing input. That.
Right, exactly.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, any questions about that? Good?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay. I make a motion that we move to adopt an ordinance adding an ex officio member representing Main Street to the Economic Development Advisory Board. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Item B, consider authorizing the sale of lots located on the south side of the 800-900 blocks of West Myrtle Street.
I have had some requests from some adjoining property owners wishing to purchase these lots. And I did check with the both Mr. Pitts, Ian and Andy, and they indicated that they don't see any need for them, even if they have fire EMS over there. They don't really see that they would need any additional ground to the south. And so in order to get a fair price, we suggest finding out what a market value would be and then setting a minimum. So I don't think you probably want to sell them for $20 or something. So, so I was just wanting some direction, and if you would authorize us to do that, and if you would be okay with us getting an estimated value. And we could either do that through a realtor, or we could actually get an appraisal, but that's going to cost, a certain amount of money. But
Right.
Just whatever you guys would prefer.
You could check the Montgomery County appraiser
already
to see
did.
what they've got,
I
but
already
that's
did.
probably high.
Well, the issue is the lot that's twice as much is appraised at half the value. So that didn't seem quite fair.
Of course.
So the county had
Yeah.
the smaller lot at like 4,000 something, and they had the lot that was twice as big at like 2,000 something. And I thought, well, that's because that's what I was going to use initially. And I saw that and it's like, well, that seems a little backwards, so maybe we shouldn't go that route.
Yeah, I think you could use it just to see where they're at and then come realistically to a value. Yeah, the smaller one at 4,000 is
Yeah,
out of range. And
yeah.
I think there's some range even, 2,500 might be a little high for an empty lot.
Yeah, and that one lot is actually two lots put together. It's
one on
twice
the
as
bottom.
large. So, do you just want to set a minimum value at like 2,500 for the one and 5,000 for the other, or, and we could set that as a minimum. If we don't get any bids, we can revisit it.
That would sound reasonable to me. If we don't get anything, we can go back and reevaluate what we started at. But the appraised
And we-
values are giving you something completely different, which is kind of odd.
Well, I don't know why it's like that. I don't know if maybe at one time there was maybe something on that lot and they just haven't re-evaluated it. But yeah, the smaller lot was valued by the county twice the value of the larger lot.
Even at 4,500 and 5,000, that sounds high to me.
Well, 2,500 and 5,000,
Well,
not
okay,
45.
4,500.
Yeah, 2,500 for the
Small one.
lot that's half the size and 5,000 for the double lot.
Okay.
Sorry,
And see
I
what
may
we
have
come up
misspoke.
with.
So you're saying the smaller ones at 2,500?
I think we set a minimum bid of 2,500 for the smaller lot and 5,000 for the double lot.
I think,
And then we can publish
Sounds-
it. I'll notify all adjoining owners
Mm-hmm.
because there could be someone else that has an interest and
Sure.
go through our normal bidding process on sealed bids.
what have you seen, Gary, for?
There are lots all over the city that you can get for nothing that nobody wants. But clearly somebody wants these or they wouldn't have
Yes,
approached the
they've
city.
requested to
So
purchase them,
I think that's a great place to start. If we could get that and let somebody else take them, I think it'd be wonderful,
and then we wouldn't have to mow them either.
Right.
So.
theoretically.
Okay, I will do that.
Yeah, that sounds like a winner to me. Okay. Then, if there's not any more questions, I make a motion that we move to authorize the sale of lots located on the south side of the 800, 900 blocks of West Myrtle Street. Do I have a second?
A second.
Excuse me, Mayor,
Yes.
do we want to modify the motion to include advertise publicly and include the
Minimum bid.
minimum prices?
Yes. 2,500 for the small lot and 5 for the big one.
Okay.
So let me restate that again then.
And include publicly advertised?
Okay. Okay, I move to authorize the sale of lots located on the south side of the 800, 900 block of West Myrtle Street with a minimum bid of $2,500 for the small lot, $5,000 for the larger lot, and to publicly
To receive sealed bids
sealed bids and to
that we'll
public,
advertise.
yes, and to publicly advertise the sale of the lots. Okay, that seems to cover everything.
I second it again.
Okay. All in favor? Signify by
Aye.
saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, passed twice. Great.
There you go.
Okay. Chief Harrison, item C, you're up. Consider authorizing a risk and operational effectiveness audit and evidence property room improvement project.
Evening,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
As you know, we're constantly seeking improvement in everything that we do, and this is just another step in that improvement seeking process. We kind of go along and pick the things that are easier to get to, and now we're moving toward the bigger ticket items and things that are a little more complicated, and that's what this is. So I have worked with Lexipol at my former agency, and we've worked with them here as well. And when they try to break into a community or into a state, when they try to start doing business in the state, they usually offer deep discounts. And because we have partnered with Parsons Police Department on the risk and operational effectiveness audit, they've given us a tremendously deep discount. I think it was 54% or something. It was, from 28,000 down to 14 or 15,000, 14,909. So, and what that encompasses is it's a look at their 5 pillars, which is their 5 pillars of liability, and that's the areas where you're, most likely to get run into issues with if you're not doing them right. So they look at human resources, policy management and training, discipline. Are you enforcing those policies? That kind of thing. They look at people, policy, training, supervision, and discipline, and make sure that you're operating the department in a manner that reduces risk for the city. And so, you may not believe this, but I don't know everything about running a police department. So it's such a wide open and it's such a varied profession that you really need to surround yourself with people that are experts in the various fields and then listen to them. And so this is another step in the process of seeking out experts and getting guidance on what best serves our citizens and what best protects the bottom line for the tax dollars that our citizens fund us with. So that's what I hope to gain from this process, and you will probably be involved, or someone from your group will probably be involved. They will be here to do interviews with stakeholders, city management, rank and file from the police department, and they will collect data. They'll give us homework to do. We'll provide the data to them. They'll do interviews, like I just told you about, the data analysis, and then they will present their findings to the command staff of the police department and put us on a plan with deadlines and move us through that process. And then after a time frame, they will come back. And when I talk about a plan, wherever we're not following up-to-date best practices, then that's where they will, in the audit, they'll annotate that, and then they'll help us move towards getting those discrepancies up to current standards. And so through that process, they'll meet with us monthly over the phone, and then I believe after a 6-month time frame, they come back, check the discrepancies from the audit, and then issue kind of a follow-up. So, and I think it also goes to transparency because it'll show, what are we doing right and where do we need to work on? What other things do we need to work on? So that's why that's important to me, and I think it'll really serve our organization and our community well. However, I am aware of some things that we need to work on already that I know are going to come up in that audit. And so because Lexipol, because we're working in conjunction with Parsons, and because they're trying to get into the state and start doing business in Kansas, they're in a hurry to get this done. And they want us to coordinate it. So they would like us to do it in 2019. As you guys recall, it was approved for 2020. Mm-hmm. So the reason that I'm here tonight is to request to move that up to 2019. So in that process, we need to move the project that goes along with that, which is the evidence lockers on display now. And that'll help our evidence handling process and make that easier for the officers, and yet bring it up to best practices for the organization as well. And then in the course of this, I found out that we need to put some separation in our evidence room for money and valuables go in one secure area, guns go in another secure area, and then, of course, illegal drugs evidence goes in another secure area. So we have our money and valuables already segregated out and secured. So now we need to finish that up and get the guns and drugs separated out and secured behind a separate set of locks and cages. And so that's what this project is about. So it's about those evidence lockers, the partitions, and then the overall audit itself. And so again, this was a 2020 project. All of this was in 2020. The partitions are an add-on that I wasn't aware of at the time. There's $37,000 in the capital improvement plan for 2019 that comes from a records management system that we did not replace. So, and this is, if you look at the table that's on display, it's still under budget for even with the addition, it's still under budget for the 2020 CIP and for the 2019 CIP.
So this is, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So this is something that's new to the state of Kansas. Is this the direction this is going to be going, this accreditation?
Are you familiar with the accrediting process?
No, not at all.
So CALEA is the main accrediting body for law enforcement in the United States. Several states around the country have their police chiefs association or another professional association, like the police officers association or the sheriff's association. Various law enforcement professional organizations take up that charge in different states. Kansas doesn't currently have one. The chief of Parsons and I are currently soliciting the Kansas Association of Chiefs of Police to adopt an accreditation process. And what accreditation does is, again, it first thing it does is set a professional standard, and the second thing that it does then is to manage risk for the organization. So if you're following these professional standards, you're not as likely to find yourself in a liability lawsuit. So it's not just about liability, it's also about professionalization. And in the absence of an accrediting body in the state of Kansas, we could go through CALEA, but that's a full-time person that does your accreditation management, and it's a very extensive and expensive process. So in lieu of those things, I think this is the right fit for us. It's a reasonable cost, it's a manageable cost, but yet it accomplishes that at a reasonable level.
It sounds like you've done a lot of thought and research. Can you explain, or have you had chance yet to look at, after the audit is completed, how the process then will be within the department to administer? It seems like it's a pretty broad requirement just for you to take it upon yourself to oversee, but have you thought of how this would be, the data coming back then, that you would actually put it to use? One of the things that when I first got on the commission, Darrell Unruh mentioned, we do a lot of studies and they become books that we put on the shelf, but it looks like you're thinking ahead. So have you got an idea how you would implement this going forward after the...
Oh, sure. And that's part of what the evidence is, implementing that small portion of the audit, because it's going to be a policy review. And when you look at policy, you can have your books on a shelf. Mm-hmm. So what? Mm-hmm. If you're not using them, if you're not enforcing them, if you're not training your people on them, that's all they are. They're not protecting the city. They're not protecting the employee. They're not protecting the department head and everybody else in the chain of command. And so, yes, now to go to your question, I don't do anything by myself on that department. I've got, as far as I'm concerned, I've got the best officers in the state working with me, and I really have a lot of respect and appreciation for what they do. So it'll be an all-hands event. This is something that will affect our agency from top to bottom, I'm quite confident. And so, these changes, they'll be implemented. We'll have a team working on it together. It wouldn't even be a thought that it's something that I could handle on my own. We have to work together on it, because I'm sure it's going to be quite a bit of work just to go through the just to go through the auditing process before they even get to the report and bring it back to us. So, yes, and to go to the books on the shelf comment, when you look at budgeting, when you look at that capital improvement plan, you need to have a plan. That's what it is. It's a plan. And if you don't know where you're going, how do you know what you're going to do? And so I think just like what we're looking at right here, this expense, this is going to guide, this will be a portion of what guides our capital improvement planning going forward as we find things in this audit or our budget, as we find things in this audit that we're not where we want to be on, this is going to help our planning process moving forward.
So it's really your tool for future planning that will be implemented. And I guess, are you going to have a committee within the department that works to keep record and review process, or is it just like your captain, your assistant, they're going to be responsible for it?
Well, I think this is something that's going to be spread. The responsibility for this will be spread throughout the leadership on the department. I want it to be, I want everyone to have ownership in this so that they embrace it and move forward with it and see the good that I anticipate it's going to help us all. And so, so I think it's definitely going to have to be a team effort. But I've got a great team, and I love working with them. So I have no doubt that everybody's going to step up and do their part.
Sounds like an excellent opportunity for the city with the reduction of cost and the benefit long term of implementing the audit's findings into the department. It not only benefit for you, but I think the citizens too can really see a change, that you're getting current data from outside the department. You're just not relying upon our own experience, but I think the auditors are law enforcement trained, so they're familiar with what they're going to be.
Yes, and these are retired law enforcement professionals that have gone on to a second career, and this is where they've chosen to spend it, is in this organization at this time. So I am looking, again, it's going to be a lot of work, it's going to be a lot of pressure, it's going to put people, we're going to have to get to work on it when this unfolds. But I think it's going to bring a level of comfort, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And there may be some things out there that we don't realize, just because we are all a product of our experiences. And if you haven't had certain experiences and you've been very fortunate and maybe something bad hasn't happened to you, but it's happened to somebody else. So let's learn from what's happened to them, and let's bring it to Independence so that our citizens and our officers don't suffer from the consequences of what we don't know.
That's great. And the equipment will be relocated. And
the equipment can be removed, and we're going to install it. We're going to have it installed ourselves locally. I didn't include installation, just shipping. So, and the reason for that is I want to know that, I wanted to make sure we could pull this up and take it with us wherever we land next.
Great.
And the price for the lockers being way, way less than we estimated, that's still all we think we're going to need? That's not just a partial job or something, right?
No, from what I understand, that's, when I talked to him, this is everything we need. I called up the Arc City PD, the police chief over there, Dan Ward, and I said, tell me about these guys, because this is suspicious. And, it's at $8,500 under the quote that I used to plan this project. Or something. It's tremendously cheaper than what we got to plan the project, and he's a go for it. He said I like cheap, and I said I don't. But he said no, you're going to be good, and he walked me through it, and he sent me these pictures, and I said that's exactly what I've worked with in the past, and that's where I want to be, and he vouched for the quality and the construction of them. And they'll be in a secured area as well. They're not going to be available to the public where they could come along and tamper with them.
So the sliding of the records management project back to next year came about because of this great opportunity to partner with Parsons and...
Well, we're not doing the records management project at all.
Oh, okay.
That was taken out of the CIP for 2020, and we opted not to, as a department, staff decided that we didn't want to expend that money on a records management system at this time.
Okay, so we're going to use that money for this project.
Correct.
Looks great. I appreciate you partnering with other nearby cities. That seems like a wonderful opportunity to build those relationships.
It is, and I feel pretty fortunate to have the support from police chiefs around the state, but particularly in our area. It's nice to go have a coffee and bounce ideas off those guys, and that's where this came from. That's where the accreditation, the hope to get an accreditation project going in Kansas came from, was just chiefs coming together and visiting about those things and talking about what we face, and just like any other profession.
Great. Who paid for the coffee? Just out of curiosity.
It was I don't know, it's Dutch Treat or something. I don't know, whatever you call that, where everybody pays their share. I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't buy anybody's coffee, if that's what you're asking, Gary.
Yeah.
Okay. Gentlemen, any other questions?
No, I don't have any others.
No.
Good presentation.
Thank you.
Chief. All right, then I make a motion that we move to authorize the police department to contract with Lexipol for a risk and operational effectiveness audit overview of the Independence Police Department and to purchase Tiffin metal products, pass-through lockers, and 2 Wirecrafters security cages as quoted. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Item D, consider authorizing the Sanitation Department to purchase a 2020 Ford F-550 with swamp loader S1-145 series hook lift with 14,500-pound capacity from Elliott Equipment Company in the amount of $75,873. Mike, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
We opened bids today for a hook lift, and the low bidder was Elliott Equipment, and the truck met all the specs that I sent out, and came in at $75,873.
Quite a difference
Yeah.
between high and low.
There's a huge difference.
Yeah.
50 grand.
And without this hook lift truck, we actually don't have any way of
Moving them around. No.
moving dumpsters around. So we're dependent on someone else to actually perform that service for us in the short term. Then, right?
Well, the ones that we put out for the cleanup, we used Republic.
Okay.
They were 20 yards. They were big ones,
Okay.
and they were full.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then some.
There you go. Okay. Yeah, that's a good price. I mean, considering looking at all what the other vendors submitted, they were all close to $100,000 or over.
For payment of the purchase, is this out of the sanitation fund, or do we need to have a
Lacey, can you answer
lease
that question?
purchase?
Okay.
You weren't paying attention.
She survived the ropes course today.
For the funding to purchase, is this out of the sanitation fund with money at hand, or will this be a lease purchase, or is part of it from insurance?
Part of it is from insurance. We received about $21,000 of insurance proceeds. This will come out of the sanitation budget. I would presume that we will probably have to amend this budget, but we have the cash on hand. I think we should pay cash, not do a lease purchase option for
Okay.
this.
That's what I wondered. I thought we had a balance
Yeah,
in
we
there,
have
so we could.
we have sufficient cash to make this purchase.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Gentlemen, any other questions?
None for me.
No.
Okay. I make a motion that we move to authorize the Sanitation Department to purchase the 2020 Ford F-550 with swamp loader for $75,873 from Elliott Equipment Company. Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carried. Mike? Lacey, thank you. All right, moving along. B, reports. First one up, 223 West Main Street update. David, how are
Hey,
you?
I'm good, Mayor. How are you?
Good.
Hey, Mayor, I saw on Facebook 4 hours ago the brewery posted today is our first brew session, but it looks like it's going to be 2 weeks before they're ready. So it looks like they're getting their brewery machines up and going. I have not heard from Steve, but just kind of keeping track, maybe Friday or Monday, potentially working towards doing the occupancy. However, talking to Robert and Jessica, they got to get the brewery part going and figured. So, I mean, they're happy. Everything's right on schedule.
So how's it coinciding with their plan to bring the public into the building and the life safety issues being
I think we're
completed?
We're good because speaking with them today, they need to get the brewery part done and some inventory in place before they're ready for that.
So originally it was like mid-October
Right.
that they were bringing
Yes,
public
but-
in, but that's changed,
Yeah,
so there's
she
time.
basically told me today the 2 weeks is when they're going to be ready, which what they posted on their Facebook. They'll be ready. That's when they need to have the public in. So she said we're in good shape, and so
Are you anticipating like a pre-walkthrough to check, just make sure that everything life safety-wise has been set up instead of, if you wait till the last day and there's an issue,
Right. That's
then
why
it
I
puts
think
a crunch. and-
it's probably maybe Friday or Monday, but I mean that'd be Steve's said he wants to tell us when he's ready for us to come in.
Good.
So yeah, Jessica and I had a nice talk today, so I think they're moving right along. So I think we're in good shape.
That's good news.
Yep.
Has there actually been anyone from Morrison working on the facility since?
Yes, she told me the back door was put on yesterday, I think she said.
Okay, so there is someone.
Yeah, they are there.
from-
The plumbers are there, and
Okay.
yeah,
So they are working. Okay.
There is work going done. The punch list, she says, is pretty close. There are just a few details they're working on.
Great. It's good news to hear.
Yep.
And any response with the items from the life safety, fire prevention review? Have there been any submittals?
I mean, I haven't
on
heard
it?
anything from Mr. Morrison, but he told us that he would not do anything until after the brewery was open. So maybe I anticipate in November, maybe.
Okay.
Okay. Gentlemen, anything else for Dave?
No, it sounds like the main concern of the brewery being functioned, that the temporary occupancy permit allowed that to take place. So
Good.
that was the main goal.
That was the main goal, and it looks like it's going to be met by Mr. Morrison. So that is a big plus and a big win. Okay, David, thank you very much. Appreciate that. We've all had a chance to look at the board minutes from the P&Z and the City Rec Commission. Kelly, do you have any comments for us
They had a
tonight?
successful cleanup last week, even though it was a little soggy.
Yeah.
But had a lot of. How many dumpsters did you have filled?
Big ones.
Well, that's good. That provides a service for the community, and it helps continue to clean up areas that need to be cleaned up, and that's good. Glad to see us doing that. Anything else, Kelly? Okay. Commissioner comments. Either of you gentlemen have anything that you'd like to bring to the table?
I do not.
Leonard?
No, just kind of going back, it was always nice when we had the treasurer's reports part of our packet, the monthly report and the quarterly report, just kind of a reminder, and also the sales tax report when it was in the packet. It gave us the opportunity as a as a body to look at it and get input and just make sure we're going in that direction to get that included in our packet.
Treasurer's report, sales tax report, what, in the quarterly report?
Yeah, quarterly treasury
Are you-
reports.
Lacey, are you doing the treasurer's quarterly now and not monthly? Is that correct?
We do the treasurer's reports quarterly. I mean, the issue with doing the monthly, like we're still working on journal entries for August close. So if I gave you a report, it would not be accurate or it wouldn't mean anything. We're still making journal entries to clean up August activity. Do you know when? I mean, I think you're almost done with everything. But that's really why we do them quarterly, is that's when we can get all of the information together and put together in an accurate manner.
So we always, up until, a year ago, we had them monthly that were possible then. And a quarterly report, of course, is by statute. It'd be nice to have some kind of report to know where we are in some manner. Maybe we could look at what would be areas that the commission would feel we needed to keep track of, projects or something. Maybe we could identify certain areas that you could report monthly so we can track and just
if I
be
knew
aware.
exactly what you guys wanted to see, but I mean, I think just looking at how we've done it in the past, you have to kind of take into consideration what our audit results have been for the past couple of years, and we've bettered ourselves so much over the years that I mean, we have a lot of other checks and balances in place, and it takes longer to get our information put together because we have those processes in place now. But if there's a specific thing that you want reported on, that's a lot more
'cause
doable. We can accommodate that.
We had less staff and we got a monthly, and now we've got more staff in bookkeeping, and it's taking longer to get the reports out. So,
But they're more accurate now, is
yeah,
what I'd rather have less reports but them be more accurate than hand out reports that aren't accurate. I don't want to be misleading in our information
Yeah.
that we put out.
yeah. Well, we want accuracy too. That's, when Tony was doing them, they were accurate and monthly, and so I don't know. I'll look back at the previous monthly reports we had where I had questions, and maybe the other commissioners, if you're interested in the treasurer's reports, do the same thing, and we can kind of look at some of our common questions and maybe
Sure.
report on those.
Narrow it down and give you more of what it is we're actually looking for. So that's the only information that you'll have to bring forward to us, and those issues that we have concerns about. So,
Sure.
So maybe that's what we need to do.
It seemed like some of them was in the grants and the projects where we're getting grant and partial funding. So, yeah, I'll look back and see where I had highlighted and then
Okay.
do that. The sales tax report would be nice in the packet, too, instead of just emailing. The other thing, not with you, it's just
okay.
another item. The
Thank you,
economic
Lacey.
the Economic Development Advisory Board, with the appointments being made tonight, I guess our next step is to notify the ones that have been appointed and reconfirm that they're willing to take the position. But before we actually task them, is maybe at a work session soon that we could sit down with just our appointees and kind of discuss the direction of the advisory board. Let them give us some input on what they see the board being able to do, and this would exclude the ex officio members, but just the board. Listen to how they're looking at organizing. You know, there's some appointments, a chairman that they'll make, and so, you know, maybe not do it in October, a work session, because you'll have to get contact with them and report at the next commission meeting. Of course, it's Niwala, so everyone's going to be busy, but after Niwala, we could have a work session with the Economic Development Advisory Board and just, you know, the boards are under the commission, and let them talk to us and we talk to them and see what they're going to need from us and what direction they want to go.
So we'd be looking at setting this up for the third Wednesday in November, move it to November. And that would be, what would the third Wednesday in November
The
be?
day before your commission meeting you moved to.
Or, you know, we can even, the next meeting we can look at a time. It doesn't have to wait till the third. We could move the
Okay.
third meeting to a different day. And
Yeah.
just so it goes forward.
Okay.
That would be the 20th. I mean, we could see if they're available then.
Yeah.
You don't have anything else on that work session right now that I have
Yeah.
down. So I can see if they're available then. And I would suggest we also have the city attorney there to do a orientation on probably the ethics policy and some of that he does it with the planning commission and stuff like that, because that relates to city
Yeah.
board members as well. Since this is a new board, they wouldn't have had that orientation.
And the same with, I believe any board that we've appointed, they're still under
Open meetings.
Kansas Open Meetings
Yes.
Act.
So he
And-
covers that for us for the planning commission, and he can cover that with
Sure.
them, and that would be a good opportunity and a refresher for you guys as
Yeah.
well.
That's a good idea.
Now, Kelly, you will be the one that notify
Yeah.
the board members that have been appointed tonight? Okay. And then, as far as that work session, do you think maybe setting up a couple of, an alternate date that we could consider, give them
Yeah, I
maybe
could-
2 dates to choose from, and maybe it would work out
Why don't
there
I
between
check this
them?
date and see if there's an issue, and if there is,
Okay.
then we can come back and on the 23rd and see, or I can email you guys and see
Okay.
if there's another date.
Okay. That would
This
work.
gives them quite a bit of notice, so.
Sure. Okay. That would be good. Anything else?
No.
You're good? All right. Public concerns. Dave, you have anything? No one's wants to speak tonight. Okay. Moving along. We are going to have an executive session, and I make the motion that I move the City Commission recess into executive session to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to the non-elected personnel matter exception, KSA 75-4319B1. The open meeting will resume in the Veterans Room Memorial Hall we're looking at 15 minutes later than the time of which the motion was announced. So that'll put us back in session at 6:28. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And that will include the commissioners, David, Kelly, and Dan. City Attorney Dan. All right. Okay, the commission is back in session, and we're going to go back into an executive session again for 15 minutes. And I make that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. And Dave, that'll
Mayor,
put
and
us
it's going to be for non-elected personnel.
Same.
Okay, it's the same issue.
same non-elected personnel. All right. And that'll put us at time. 6:44. All right, thank you. Okay. We are back in session, and we're going back out of session for 15 minutes, and this concerns issues related to non-elected personnel. So we will be back in 7? All right.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, the meeting is back in session. There was no action taken, and we're moving to adjournment. I make a motion that we adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.